Hey everyone, my name is David Dunbar, or the Theme Park Evangelist. So today I will be discussing. Um, Here, let me move over a little bit. There we go. I'll move this over or back up the other way. More or less, I will be discussing today Disney World versus Universal Orlando. And before I officially start today's awesome discussion topic and vlog, I more or less just wanted to let you guys know that I have done a vlog like this in the past. It was about 6 years ago or so, and it was maybe 3 minutes long. It was really, really short. And I I was kind of thinking about what I wanted to YouTube. I was looking at my schedule, and it looks like I don't have a lot going on. My 3 days off from work, so I surprisingly will have more time to vlog or YouTube over the next few days or so. And with that being said, I was kind of thinking about Disney World and Universal quite a bit. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Especially last night, I was reading this article about 12 like major things that Universal has that Disney doesn't have. And I was thinking about that, and it kind of inspired me to start or thinking about doing another Disney World versus Universal Orlando vlog. So I'm going to be covering, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different topics. And I'm going to go through them one at a time. And I'm going to just basically say this is what Disney has, and then this is what Universal has. And then I will choose, from my personal opinion or preference, which does it better. Is it Disney or Universal? And I'll go work my way down the list for all 6. So even if this takes an hour, I'm all for it. So let's do this. So for the very first discussion topic point I wanted to hit was convenience. And now you probably are wondering, what do I mean by convenience? I mean the ability to either access via the interstate or just whatever, get to from the airport, or even, say, for example, you're staying on property and you want to be able to get to, like, say, for example, a shopping area or the theme parks or whatever very quickly and without any issue. This is what would all fall under convenience. And this is where it's going to get really interesting. So from what I was reading last night, Universal claims that they are the best for convenience because of the fact that everything is literally built all in like one area. So you got the left side, that's Islands of Adventure. You've got a couple of resorts on the left side, if not the majority of them. You can access quite a bit of those resorts via their water taxi, basically a boat. And then on the right side of City Walk is even more resorts, like the Hard Rock Hotel, for example. And if you even want to, over in City Walk, if you are heading back towards the parking garage, there is a bus service that will take you to a good majority of those hotels. Not all of them, but a good majority of them. I believe that Aventura is the only one, from my understanding, that you cannot access via boat. You have to access it via the bus. So, and the other funny thing is the traffic, at least driving around Universal for the buses, is pretty easy. And since everything is built relatively close to Universal's parks, it makes it a lot easier to get in around. I would say for people who want to go to Universal on like the last day of their trip, for example, and you don't have a hold on, sorry, and let's say you don't have a lot of time to stop for well, let me start over. Let's say that you're at Universal and you want to do like a last minute stuff, and you have an airport, or you have to be at the airport, you have an airplane to catch. Sorry, I get sidetracked easily. So with that being said, your best bet would be to end your trip at Universal, just because of the fact that you're going to be able to get to the park, enjoy yourself. You'll be able to get around Universal easily and get back to the airport without any issues. Keep in mind, though, that from my understanding, Universal does not have a bus service that will take you directly back to the airport like Disney does. Now, Disney's is no longer free. You have to pay for it. So that changed as of the beginning of the year. That's sad. I know. I'm going to miss a Magical Express. They're partnered with Mears now. But that is an option. If you were to go to Universal, I would recommend going there at the last bit of your trip, just because of the fact that it's easy to get everything done that you want to do, and you don't have to worry about being stuck somewhere. So let's switch over to Disney, for example. You're probably wondering, like, what am I talking about? Well, I've talked to guests over the years that I've been going to Disney, especially as a YouTuber, and I'm one of those people that likes to go to Disney Springs on my last day, but that's because I'm smart. I'm not saying that all of you are dumb or anything, but I'm just saying that in general, I'm a smart guy. I book my flight back home to Northern Kentucky at the very end of the day for a reason. So I have time to do everything I want to do, because Disney Springs is not something that you can exactly do in a quick time frame. Trust me, even for me, who's been going to Disney Springs, downtown Disney, for years, I still can't get out of there quickly at all. It's the way it's set up. It's just the fact that you have to go out of your way to go over there, because it's basically way out, away from everything else. And then you have to park your car. And of course, that's not always easy either, because you're never going to guarantee they're going to get a good spot. Then you have to go in, and who knows how many people are going to be walking around. For all you know, it might be really congested in there, and it might take that much longer to get out. And if you're one of those crazy people, unfortunately, there's too many of those. Myself is one of them that decides, I'm going to leave my car at Disney Springs, and I'm going to go take a bus around. Or I'm not going to leave my car at Disney Springs. I'm going to leave my car at my resort, and I'm going to take a bus over to Disney Springs. Well, I can't tell you how many times that I've decided to park my car over at Disney Springs, or take a buddy's car over to Disney Springs, and decide I'm going to go look at, or go on the Skyliner or something, for example. And I end up waiting there about half an hour before a bus finally shows up. Disney Springs is the worst place to go to on the last day of your trip if you are one of those people that has to fly. Unless you do like what I do and you book a flight at the very end of the day, then you should be fine. I'm, just putting that out there. So as far as convenience goes, as of right now, Universal is winning, just because of the fact that you can literally go to Universal and you can enjoy your time, go walk around the parks, go walk around City Walk, take a water taxi down. Everything is right there at your fingertips. You never have to wait for anything. I can't tell you how many times I've, gone to the to Universal, and even the few times I've gone to the Universal hotels, never had any issues with transportation ever. So, just me personally, if you want to do anything on your last day of your trip, end your day at Universal or end your trip at Universal, because I would hate for you to miss your trip, miss your flight. I would also suggest, if you really want to end your trip at Disney, and we're still talking about convenience, which is better, Disney or Universal? So going back to Disney again, aside from Disney Springs, another other great ways I like to end my trip at Disney is because Disney is so spread out versus Universal's compact, which they think is better because they think they're more organized. But that's not always necessarily true. I like the fact that Disney's spread out. So I sometimes what I like to do as well, if not all the lately, what I've been doing is usually on my last day after I spend a couple of hours over at Disney Springs, I'll go play miniature golf somewhere. Usually it's at Fantasia Gardens. Sometimes it's over at Winter Summerland. So Fantasia Gardens is over by the Swan and Dolphin Resort and the bus entrance to Disney's Hollywood Studios. And it's also over by the Hess gas station over there. And it's also not too far from Epcot as well, if that helps. If you ever want to go to Fantasia Gardens. Winter Summerland, on the other hand, is over by Coronado Springs, right next door to Blizzard Beach, on the immediate right of it. And it's also not too far from Animal Kingdom, if you ever want to go over there. But you don't always necessarily have to. There are tons of places to go to outside Disney, but we're sticking with Disney because this is a Disney versus Universal topic. So normally I go over to Winter Summerland or Fantasia Gardens, but I would say 9 times out of 10 I prefer Fantasia Gardens, just because between the two miniature golf courses, Fantasia Gardens is my favorite. Now Universal will turn around and say, well, we have a miniature golf course too. Yes, they do. I don't actually know how good it is because I've never actually played it before. And the reason why I'm sticking to the end of the trip so much is because this is when most people need that convenience. The beginning of the trip, most people tend to start their trip out at Disney just because of the fact that it's so easy and convenient to take that bus over to one of the Disney resorts, and everything is done right there for you. So I would say, as far as beginning your trip, Disney wins hands down, but at the end of your trip, Universal wins. So with convenience, I'm going to side with Disney. Once again, I'm going to side with Disney at the beginning and Universal at the end. Moving on to lodging. So what I mean by lodging, I mean which property has the better hotels and rooms and all that. Is it Disney or Universal? Let's look at it. I'll start with Disney this time. So I've personally visited quite a few Disney resorts over the years, and I've only stayed on property at Art of Animation and Fort Wilderness in my lifetime at Disney. I can't really say anything about Universal other than the few times that I visited their hotels. But I've visited both Disney's hotels and Universal's hotels at this point. So, 6 years ago, I wouldn't know what to tell you about Universal, but at least at this point, I can tell you about both. So, from, my understanding, when I like to go to Saratoga Springs, it looks like it's a really nice hotel. It's got a lot of amenities. I have friends that tend to stay on the, whatever you call it, the vacation club side. Rooms are pretty good size. Of course, if you go with the vacation club sides, you generally quieter. They have some of the nicer pools on that side, and they usually can have a lot more privacy on that side. I would say that one thing I really like about Saratoga Springs is the fact that it definitely gives you that equestrian kind of style theme. Overall, my favorite Disney resort is the Polynesian, and I love that one the most because I love the fact that you get off the monorail and you really do feel like you're in Hawaii, and then you got Lilo and Stitch stuff. You got Ohana there. I mean, it's by far one of my favorite Disney restaurants of all time. Then you've got the pineapple lanai or whatever outside, and you go get your Dole Whip. And then there's beaches outside. You can go sit on the hammock and go watch the fireworks. It's kind of nice. I just personally love everything about the Polynesian Resort. There's a lot of stuff I don't like about it, if that makes any sense. I'm going to try moving to the other side of the bed so I can lay back if possible, but at the same time, I seriously doubt that's going to happen because my laptop's plugged in. So apparently I didn't get a full charge. Oh, well, I'll just unplug it really quick. It's cool. Hang on tight. Sorry. Ugh. This is exactly why I don't always like to do live vlogs, because the fact that I do tend to shift around a lot, and I do tend to get lost in my train of thought and all that fun stuff. Okay. Might be able to plug it back in again. Okay. I think I might be good to go. So, yeah, I would say, the Disney I've always been more familiar with. I've always really liked how they themed everything. I would say that Disney, unfortunately, has taken away a lot of amenities, because that's another thing I'm going to hit up on with lodging. I've been kind of disappointed with Disney. I think they still do the refillable cups for the resorts, but they have taken away the complimentary Magic Bands, which a lot of people are very disappointed about. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff there. I mean, both Disney and Universal have similar hotel setups now, or amenities, I should say. But, Disney overall, I would say, wins with the theming. And my personal opinion, now this may not always necessarily be true. I was, reading online last night that Cabana Bay is by far superior to most Disney resorts, and for a much cheaper price. But we're going to get to price later. So, I would still go with Disney, even though not everybody would agree. Now, the reason why some people would go with Universal on this one, because we're going to go with Universal. This is a compare. Disney World versus Universal. So Universal has a lot more amenities to offer people, such as the free Universal Express Plus passes. So you can literally stay at a Universal hotel, and you can go on as many rides as you possibly want all day for free. You don't have to pay for the Express Plus pass because it comes attached with your hotel. And I believe the majority of their hotels do offer it. I think the higher end hotels anyway, like Hard Rock, for example. The value resorts, no. And that's not bad. And I've been told that the one thing that also makes Universal hotels stand out from Disney is Universal hotels are definitely designed for adults. So that's another thing I'm going to hit up on. I had that same friend that likes to stay at Saratoga Springs. He said that if you were, traveling with your wife or your girlfriend or your fiance, or the opposite, whatever, opposite gender, you know what I'm talking about, and you wanted privacy and you really wanted that, you know, special treatment, then you would go over to one of the Universal hotels because the Universal hotels are definitely designed more for adults. They don't really design the Universal hotels for kids. I saw that for myself about 3 years ago when I first checked them out. And I was like, wow, I mean, yeah, there are kids, but at the same time, it really didn't um, look like it was designed for kids versus Disney. Oh my word. Everything that Disney does for in their hotels is designed for kids. They have all kinds of options like movie under the stars, and there's always some kind of pool party going on at the Disney hotels too. And then even Fort Wilderness has cool stuff going on. And if you are a family with young children, then yes, you're going to want to go to Disney. But if you're like my age and you just want some privacy, then go to one of the Universal hotels. So I guess that's honestly the best way to answer that. And if we want to throw price in there, if you really wanted to save some money and have a better theme resort, from what I read online last night, go to Universal because overall it is going to be better than a lot of the Disney Valley resorts, unless you want to spend quite a bit of money and stay at one of the higher end Disney resorts, then you'll get more of your money's worth. So, moving on, we're going to go down to the ability to skip ride wait times. So, obviously, I'm referring to ability to skip the standby altogether and be able to just walk right on the ride with ease. Normally, you would have to pay for this kind of stuff now. So, looking at just Universal and Disney, Universal has the Express Plus Pass. They have two options. You have the regular Express Plus that allows you to skip the wait time for one ride in one day. So I could basically buy this pass and I would be allowed to skip the wait time for the Rip Ride Rocket and then Forbidden, Gringotts, and just I could only do one time per ride. It's only good for that day. It is the cheaper option if you're one of those people that just wants to do everything like one time each and say, okay, I've done my fill, and you don't mind going back later on in the day and waiting for the ride in the standby line, then that would be the perfect example of using for or the reason for going with that particular um, option versus if you wanted to be able to skip a particular ride's wait time and just be able to go walk on it over and over and over again as much as you possibly wanted, then yes, you're going to want to go with the unlimited, which you automatically get for free by staying at one of the higher end Universal hotels. So I would almost highly recommend if you wanted to get that, I would see if you could work into your schedule that you don't stay at Disney the entire time that you're in Central Florida and that you stay at Disney maybe the majority of the time and maybe you try to set some time and money aside so you can stay at Universal day or two that you're there because you need a day at least to do the older park and then you need a day to do islands as well. I mean, I can do everything in one day, but that doesn't mean everybody can do that. There's no way. No way at all. And then you still need like a day to do Volcano Bay too on top of that. So Sometimes you might even need 3 days. And that's also why I highly recommend that you just go ahead and stay at a Universal hotel at least 3 of those days that you're there. And then the rest of the time, stay on Disney property or at least nearby Disney property if you want to save some money. But if you want the experience and the convenience and the transportation, then yeah, you're going to want to go with uh, Disney property. And Disney, on the other hand, has the Genie Plus. I really don't know anything about it. I honestly have not really heard anything good about Disney Plus or the Disney Genie Plus service. I don't know if I'm willing to look into it. It's one of those pay per ride, so it's not like the Express Plus Pass. It's very different. So it's like $15 for Rise of the Resistance, $15 for Smuggler's Run, and so on and so forth. And it looks like you're spending a lot more money to skip the wait times for rides at Disney than you are at Universal. And I honestly don't know how many people want to do that. So I almost would say that you are better off going in a standby line. Now, the nice thing about Disney eliminating the Fastpass line, from my understanding, and I'll tell you this as a former Disney cast member, I was working a test track one day, and this was back when we had Fastpass. So we're talking about 4 years ago. I was staying at this position called Merge, basically where the cast member has to separate standby from the Fastpass. For every four people that I was allowed to bring in from the standby line, I had to basically bring in about 30 to 50 people from the Fastpass line. And that's why it took so long to get through the Fastpass or the standby line, because the busier the day was, the more Fastpass I had to let through. If there was nobody in Fastpass, I was allowed to let more standby in. And to me, the Fastpass system was completely rigged, which is why part of me was kind of glad that they did get rid of it. But I wasn't expecting them to basically replace it with something they get to pay money for. So it's one of those things like, I don't really know how I feel about that. I still think that Universal does it better. I think that from the several times I've even gone to Universal, I've noticed that Universal does do a much better job about separating the standby from the Express Plus. I've noticed that Universal seems to be more fair to both versus Disney's like, oh, 90% of the time we're going to let the Fast Pass in, or I'm assuming they're still doing that with Disney Genie. Oh, 90% of the time we're going to let the Disney Genie in, and then 10% of the time we'll let the standby in. Versus Universal's going to try to be like, okay, we'll try to do 50-50 here, which is why their wait times generally are shorter for a standby. The only reason why it seems like Universal's wait times can be long for standby is because their rides do tend to break down quite a bit, like the Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, but it is what it is. I mean, Disney, like Test Track, for example, that ride breaks down all of the time. So you're not going to go anywhere where there's not going to be like a ride that's not going to break down on you. It is what it is. But anyway, moving on. So, food and beverage. It's going to be obvious that Universal is going to win this one, but we're going to go ahead and go with Disney first. I know you're probably like, oh, how can you be so sure that Universal won? So, once again, Universal won the second one. I know, hard to believe, but that's only because Disney had to get rid of their Fastpass Plus. If Disney still had Fastpass Plus, then Disney would have won second for the second one. But, well, I mean, sorry, lodging, Disney won. Third one, Universal won. And now, fourth one, I'm erasing Universal one. I haven't even covered entertainment. Like, I guess that was another one I could have added in, but I didn't think about it. But if I were to go with entertainment, Disney would win hands down. The only reason why, well, let me start over. Universal does not have a lot of entertainment, period. So I think that's another reason why I didn't think about adding on entertainment. But Universal would win for better rides. If I were to add on a separate category, which is better, Universal, Disney, is like, well, as far as entertainment goes, Disney wins. If or better rides, Universal wins. So I'll just go ahead and throw that one in there for random. But moving on to food and beverage, the reason why Universal wins, I'll get to it a little bit. So starting with Disney, we'll go at the Magic Kingdom. You've got your sit-down restaurants like Tony's. You got the Crystal Palace, which is a very good buffet. I would also say that Disney wins with the character meet and greets, hands down, too. I would say that Disney is definitely the better place to eat at if you're looking for character meet and greets and potentially even variety, because Disney has a huge variety. But Universal, I personally believe, has just like the better food and beverage. But Disney, the Magic Kingdom, also has the Beauty and the Beast restaurant, Be Our Guest, which I've heard is an incredible restaurant. I have never eaten there myself, but I have heard that Be Our Guest is a one-of-a-kind restaurant, like hands down. Quick service, I would say that, if we were to, compare and contrast food and beverage at from Disney between the Universals, if we were to remove Harry Potter altogether from the mix, I would say that Disney would win the food and beverage, for the quick service or the fast food, because Disney not only has more of a variety, but also they have better options for people that have special dietary plant needs, or say, for example, you have allergies. So people that have allergy problems, Disney is really, really good about catering to that need. I know that for a fact because I worked for them, so of course I would know. And Universal, from my understanding, they don't look at that as carefully as Disney does. But as far as the sit-down restaurant environment, Disney puts all their effort into the parks with the food and beverage, versus Universal, for the most part, they put all their food and beverage on the on City Walk. And another thing I've noticed, that which is interesting between Disney and Universal as far as food and beverage goes, is in the sit-down environment. Disney themes their sit-down restaurants based off of a movie of theirs or a TV show of theirs or something to that extent. Let's just go with Be Our Guest, based off of the Beauty and the Beast movie, obviously. The only area on Disney property that it would even remotely compare to City Walk would be Disney Springs, because of the fact that there are a small handful of decent restaurants, from my understanding, that are... I'm not even sure what you are doing over there. Sorry, there are cats in here. Yeah, there are a small handful of restaurants in Disney Springs, from my understanding, that do actually hold up to Universal's standards for sit-down restaurants. And what restaurants are those? Well, from what I've seen is by far one of the more superior sit-down restaurants at City Walk. Theming, the costumes. I would say a restaurant that at Disney Springs that reminds me of the Edison, sorry, of Tucson would be the Edison. There's just a lot of similarity between the two. The Edison is quite an impressive restaurant. I've actually done a vlog on that. You should check it out sometime. And then also at Disney Springs, another impressive sit-down restaurant that would hold up to standards at City Walk would be. I know that I can answer these questions that are in my mind right now. Oh my word. I had it. I feel like it's on West Side. I know there's that new J-Lo by San Andreas that is supposedly really, really, really good that I would absolutely love to check out sometime just to look and see what it looks like. The Hangar is more like a bar, and I've noticed that it's has an Indiana Jones feel to it, which I think is extremely cool. I would say that Disney Springs does beat out Universal City Walk as far as wider variety, hands down. So I know, and when I'm doing this discussion, when I first started out saying, Universal wins food and beverage hands down, it's like, how can you say that? It's like there's so many reasons why food and well, let me start over. There's so many possibilities that can make Disney better or Universal better. And the one thing that came to the back of my mind right away when, excuse me, I first started the food and beverage topic was quality, excuse me, of not just sit down restaurants, but also of service and food and beverage. And Universal, from what I've seen, delivers that every single time. And you can find that all not just in City Walk, but you can also find that at Mythos, which is at Islands, which I've not eaten at yet, but it's actually been ranked as one of the best restaurants in Orlando. And of course, if we were to throw Harry Potter back in there, come on, you can't say that any of Disney's quick service restaurants holds up to that atmosphere. I mean, Harry Potter alone is mind blowing. In some ways, I feel like Harry Potter is a cheat, and that's why I'm not trying to use that, because what does Disney have to compete against that? Star Wars? And I mean, obviously, Star Wars is really popular, but I feel like Disney's Star Wars Galaxy's Edge just is still not quite as good as the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, but Disney is, trying harder. Disney is getting better. And I guess that's all that matters. All right. I think I've said enough about the food and beverage, so I'll end it by saying that yes, food and beverage does go to Universal, but that doesn't mean that Disney doesn't win something. I'm going to say that Universal wins the food and beverage portion as far as quality, but Disney wins the food and beverage portion for variety. Transportation. I personally believe that Disney is going to win transportation just because they have a wider variety of transportation. The only reason why I was reading last night that Universal claims that their transportation is better than Disney's is because their transportation is more on time. But to give Disney, the fairness, come on, they have a lot more property to service. And honestly, for the most part, Disney does a good job. And Disney has found that their newest transportation, the Skyliner, is doing an incredible job. It's getting people around quickly, and it's convenient, and it seems to be cheap for them. So I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to grow it. Honest. So yes, even though the article I read last night said, "Oh, Universal is the best transportation," it's like, well, how can you guys say that when Universal is not even that big to begin with? And Universal really only has just a couple of transportation options. You have the moving sidewalks, you have the boats, and you have the buses. And that's it. And even then, that's not a lot. Versus Disney has a monorail, they have trams, they have the Skyliner, they have ferry boats. I mean, Disney has, period, a lot of options for transportation. And I've always found Disney transportation to be very relaxing. It's very rare that I have any issues with Disney transportation. In the 25 years I was living in Florida, I on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say 1 to 2 out of 10, I had an issue, which is not that much. And even the past couple of years, I had an issue with Disney transportation once per trip, and still, that's not bad at all. I've always found Disney transportation to be very reliable. And I've always found the employees on Disney transportation to be a whole lot nicer than Universal. It's very rare if you get on a Universal bus and the employees are friendly. And the only time you really need to use Universal transportation is if you're staying at one of their hotels or you're going to Volcano Bay. If you think about it, versus Disney, I feel like you have to use their transportation to get around. So, yes, I am going to give the award, obviously, to transportation. And then, last but not least, price. So, to wrap this up, price can be looked at in all kinds of ways. I could go back over the whole list as far as lodging goes. I would definitely say that Disney has the cheaper of the value resorts. However, though, Universal has cheap value resorts for a nicer whatever you call it, quality or better quality. So it just depends on what you think is the better price. I personally don't need something that looks nice just to give myself a place to stay, as long as there's no bugs anywhere or whatever. I mean, what I'm trying to get at is I have no issue with Disney Valley Resorts. So I personally think that Disney's prices for their Valley Resorts is right where it should be. With the ability to skip the queue line, Universal definitely has the better price, and I kind of covered that already. Food and beverage, that's a tough one because Disney is not always a bad price. Now, obviously, Disney and Universal are going to keep jacking up their prices. Parking right now at Disney is like $25 for general, and their preferred is like 50 unless their prices have gone up recently. Universal just rose their parking prices up again, so Disney can't be too far behind. But that's unavoidable. There's just nothing you can do about it, period. Central Florida is just always jacking their prices up, period. And you're not going to be able to go to either Disney or Universal and find a place where you're going to get anything cheap. So, it depends on where you want to spend the money. Like, if you went to either Disney or Universal and you wasted your money on snacks and drinks, and then you got mad and go, well, they're just not worth the money. It's like, well, where did you spend your money? If you went to Universal and you wasted your money on a wand oh yeah, that might be worth it. And you might have even gone to Disney and you might have decided, I want to get my, daughter, how no matter how old she is, a princess makeover. Some parents have got taken their kids to Disney and got them a pirate makeover. It depends on what you think is worth the money. And both Disney and Universal have really unique offerings to people. Disney does a lot of behind the scenes tours as well. Universal does offer some, and I've heard their VIP tour is really, really cool and it's pretty well worth the money. However, though, if you want a wide variety of tours for a decent price, then go over to Disney. So, honestly, how can I give an award to one or the other? There really is no way. I mean, not in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and say that Disney and Universal both win for this one just because of the fact that both Disney and Universal have something unique to offer guests as far as price goes. And their prices could be better, but they could be worse too. And honestly, I personally have never really had an issue with Disney's prices and said, "Oh, Universal's prices are better." Because I can go over to Universal and go, "Well, Disney's prices are better." It's like, if I really wanted to go somewhere and save money, I just go home. I mean, even Kings Island is getting expensive these days. And unfortunately, even the place I work for has been forced to raise their prices. And it's not that even Answers and Justice wants to, it's because of inflation. Everybody is raising their prices all the time. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, price really is not one of those things that I really should have thrown in there. So, which is better, Disney or Universal? That's going to be my conclusion. And the best way to conclude that is Disney is better with a lot of things. It's better. I mean, personally, I think that Disney is the easiest place to get to once you get off the airplane. I think that Disney by far has the better lodging. I think that Disney definitely has the best in class entertainment or whatever, period, in the Orlando area. I think that Disney has the widest variety of options, especially in the food and beverage department. Disney has the best transportation. And then as far as Universal goes, Universal is extremely convenient to end your trip at. Their lodging is also extremely high up there. They have the better ability to skip the wait times. Their sit down restaurants are by far superior to Disney. Their transportation is lacking, but at least it's very quick and convenient. And that's really about it. So, with that being said, I personally hope that you guys enjoy the vlog. If not, I'm sorry. I wish I could do better, but it is what it is, I guess. I mean, I'm always trying to come up with something new, trying to find something cool that we can sit and talk about or think about or whatever. I'm gonna do another vlog maybe tonight or tomorrow. I did say on my Facebook that I am going to be going down to the Lexington area in exactly 2 weeks. for a guy's camping trip from the Ark Encounter. So the odds of me finishing up my YouTube series on how I met Kay and TJ that week is very low. So I'm going to have to try to finish it sooner or try to finish it later. Either way, I will see you guys in the next vlog. I'm going to end this vlog so I can let these cats out because they're driving me crazy and they're also driving each other crazy. And always remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a great day. Peace out.